Hello everyone! Welcome to my channel where I teach you how to be a math genius. If you typically struggle in math or you're looking to improve your understanding of math, this is the channel for you. Also, I will try my best to make these videos user-friendly for teachers, co-teachers, or homeschoolers to utilize as well. If you fall into any of these categories, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you're notified anytime I upload a new video. Now let's jump in. Today we're going to learn how to simplify expressions with addition and subtraction. In my previous video, we learned some basic vocabulary. Now we're going to put some of those words into practice. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to simplify expressions by adding and subtracting terms. I encourage you to pause the video and write your solutions to the problems in the comments for practice. Then, continue to watch the video to check your answers. Also, comment any questions you have below as well. All right, let's get started. So before we learn to add and subtract terms, I want to touch on this big rule right here. You can only add and subtract like terms. We're going to come back to that in a little bit. Now, when we do add and subtract terms, we need to make sure that we combine the coefficients and that we keep the variable and the exponent the same. Now, if you don't understand some of the words that I'm using, make sure you go back and watch my previous video on basic vocabulary. So let's dive a little deeper into this rule. You can only add and subtract like terms. So that means if I had an equation like this, or an expression, I would be able to add these terms because they're like terms. But I wouldn't be able to add these. Then we need to also make sure we're combining coefficients. So when we say combine, we're just referring to adding or subtracting. And then we need to keep the variable and exponent the same. That means, we're going to rewrite the variable and exponent in our answer. Now it's time to look at some examples. We have to simplify each of these expressions. So we're going to go ahead and start with the first one, which is 3 plus 12 minus 6. Now remember the rule, we can only add and subtract like terms. So let's take a look at all three of these terms. We have the term 3, 12, and 6. All of these terms are constants. Constants are numbers by themselves. And so because all of these terms are alike, we are able to combine them. If we combine 3 and 12, we're going to get 15. And then if we go ahead and subtract 6 from 15, we're going to get 9. Therefore, 3 plus 12 minus 6 is 9. Now let's look at the next example. These three terms are a little different because they all have an x. All three of these terms are like terms because they share the fact that they have an x and they don't have exponents. So we're able to add these. First, let's go back to our steps. We said that we can only combine coefficients. Therefore, when we combine these terms, we need to make sure that we combine their coefficients. So we have a coefficient of 3 in the first term, 12 in the second term, and negative 6 in the third term. 3 plus 12 minus 6. Earlier, we already found out that 3 plus 12 minus 6 is equal to 9. Therefore, we know this answer is going to have a 9 in it. But what's different about this answer versus the answer from the last equation? Well, remember the second step tells us to keep the variable and exponent the same. Right now we don't have any exponents, but we're going to rewrite that same variable in our answer. That means when we write our answer for this equation, we're going to make sure we put an x at the end of our answer. So that means that 3x plus 12x minus 6x is equal to 9x. Time to look at another example. So what's different about these three terms? Well, the difference between these three terms and the last ones are that not only do they have variables, they all have an x, but they also have a power of 2. They all have an exponent. Remember, our rule tells us that we need to rewrite our variables and our exponents. So when we write our answer, we need to make sure we keep the same variable and exponent, but don't forget we need to combine those coefficients. So the coefficient for each term here is 3, 12, and negative 6. So just like we did earlier, let's combine those separately. And notice that I am separating the coefficients first and then putting the answer all back together with the variable and exponent. This is important for you to note because when you use your calculator to help you complete these problems, you can't put 3x or 3x squared plus 12x squared minus 6x squared in the calculator and actually get the answer out. It'll give you an error. So make sure you're using the calculator to help you combine the coefficients, but then you write the variable and the exponent in your answer. Take a pause of this video and I want you to guess what you believe the answer for this expression is going to be once I simplify it. If you guessed that the solution to this is 9x squared, you were correct. Good job. So notice the similarity and differences between our solutions. 9, 9x, and 9x squared. The first terms were all alike because they didn't have anything at the end of the number. They were all constants, therefore their answer is just a constant. All of these terms had an x at the end, therefore this answer had an x at the end. And all of these terms had an x and an exponent, or a power of 2. Therefore, this solution also had an x and a power of 2. Let's look at some more expressions. So now we have 3x squared plus 12x squared minus 6. And we also have 3 plus 12x squared minus 6. Simplify each of these expressions. All right, it's time to look at our last two examples. We have 3x squared plus 12x minus 6x, and then we also have 3x squared plus 12x minus 6. First, we need to always remember the rule that we can only add and subtract like terms. So let's look at this first expression. It has the terms 3x squared and 12x squared and minus 6. Can you guess what the like terms are in this expression? Take a pause of the video and guess what you believe they are. Now, if you guessed that the two like terms of this expression are 3x squared and 12x squared, you were correct. Good job. The reason why these two are like terms is because they're the only ones that have an x squared. Minus 6 is a constant. It's a number by itself. That means we can only add the two first terms. How would we do that? Well, the first step tells us to combine their coefficients. The first term has a coefficient of 3, and the second term has a coefficient of 12. So 3 plus 12 is equal to 15. Therefore, 3x squared plus 12x squared is 15x squared. Well, what then happens to that negative 6? We can't leave it sitting there. We still have to do something with it. Well, because there was nothing we can do to change it, there were no other terms we can use to combine with it, we just add it to the end of our answer. Now, if you were to write your answer like this instead, this is also considered correct because 15x squared is still positive and 6 is still negative. We just switched the expression around. But typically we like to write our answer Typically, we like to write our answer in this order, where the term with the most number of x's or with the highest exponent is written first. If it doesn't have any exponents at all, it's going to be written last. Now let's look at the second one. Can you guess what the like terms of this expression is? Take a pause of the video and guess what you think they are. All right, if you guessed that the two like terms of this expression are -6 and 3, you were correct. If we combine these two terms, we will get -3. Therefore, our answer is going to have -3. But again, we can't leave that 12x squared sitting alone. We have to put it in the beginning of our answer. Why is it in the front of our answer and not the back? Well, it has the highest exponent, and -3 doesn't have any exponents. This is the solution to our problem. We're going to start with the first expression. Take a pause of the video and guess what you believe the like terms of this expression are. All right, if you guessed that the like terms of the first expression are 12x and -6x, you were correct. Good job. All right, let's look at the coefficients. That first step always tells us to combine the coefficients. We have 12 and -6, which gives us +6. And then we also have 3x squared, which does not change because it doesn't have a like term. We're going to go ahead and write 3x squared first because this one has the highest exponent. How do we know it has the highest exponent? Well, these two terms don't have an exponent, but if you don't see an exponent at the top to the right of the variable, remember there still is one sitting there. We can always assume that it's 1. We're going to talk about why it's 1 a little bit later in another video, but just remember that we can always assume that it's 1. Therefore, 12x minus 6x is 6x, and we're going to put a plus sign in the middle because it's positive. Now take one more pause of the video and guess what you believe the like terms of this last example is. All right, if you guessed that there are no like terms in this last example, you were correct. So what do we do? What do you think we do if we don't have any like terms and we're told to simplify the expression? Well, we're just going to write everything the way that we see it. Why? Because there's nothing to change here. Therefore, the solution to this is 3x squared plus 12x minus 6. All right, before we go, I would like for you to try your own problem. Go ahead and simplify this expression. Pause the video and write down what you believe the solution is. Don't forget that big rule says we can only combine like terms. Make sure you combine the coefficients and keep the variable and the exponent the same. I know this expression may look a little difficult, but make sure that you are marking up which terms you believe are like terms so that you can organize your work and find the correct solution. All right, it's time to work out this problem. So first, let's go for the terms that have the highest exponents. So the first term I see is 5x squared here. I see another term with an x squared, 9x squared. So if we combine these two terms, 5x squared plus 9x squared, we will get 14x squared. Why? Because 5 plus 9 is 14. Now we have negative 5x and 18x. These two terms are like terms, so we can combine them. Negative 5x plus 18x is equal to 13x. Why? Because negative 5 plus 18 is 13. The last terms that we have left are positive 10 and negative 2. 10 minus 2 is 8. So now all we have to do is put all of our terms that we got from combining like terms all together in one big expression. So that means if we simplify this expression, we'll get 14x squared plus, and we're going to put a plus because 13x is positive, so plus 13x plus 8. If you guessed this for your solution, you were correct. Good job. If you like this explanation on how to add and subtract terms, make sure to hit the like button below and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you in the next one.